So thanks for the invitation to my whole organisation to give this talk on the loess. So I want to talk about loess. I will try to show you how loess is fantastic, and more seriously how it is very important archive to when we want to reconstruct the impact of climatic variations on European continent. And I will focus today mainly on Western Europe because it's a really huge topic, and just for 45 minutes I must focus on Western Europe. So this is my name, okay, but I'm not alone to do this research. It's really the result of a multidisciplinary team, and in this team we have a lot of specialists, people doing fieldworks, as my friends and colleagues Olivier Moine here on the picture, and Patrice Fischer, working very hard on this profile here in Strasbourg, more or less 100 kilometers to the northeast of Strasbourg, famous place for loess research. So a team, and in this team we have specialists of the paleontology, especially mollusks, but also of dating, OSN, C14, magnetic susceptibility, stable isotope, geochemistry, and also, especially for northern France, you will see a lot of colleagues from the Paleolithic archaeology, because this is really research. One of the main applications of this is also the geoarchaeological approach. So, generally, this is a kind of general frame. The reference record for the last lecture. We use this North reference record, and as you can see, there are a lot of very, very sharp and very short linear timescale events. And so the question, one of the main questions on which we are working, we have been working for more than 20 years on this idea, is to how to influence the impact of these millennial timescale variations on European continental environment during the last glacial. So this is the frame, and generally when we ask this question, one thing mainly to lake and speleotech. So why focus on this? It's a question, and I will try to first part of this presentation to ask this question. So I will first use this map. This is a map I built from the data published in 2007 by colleagues, and it is a kind of biogeographic map on which the loess is represented by mainly the yellow color. So you see clearly the loess in between the LGM ice sheets to the north, the Alpine ice also, and so this is clearly organized. This loess seconds make what we call the European loess belt. This is more or less around 50 degrees north, and in fact it can be divided into different branches. There is a northern branch from northern France, Belgium, Poland, and then to western Ukraine, and then the southern branch going from mainly along the Danube River and south of the Carpathian Basin. And so you have the loess from the Balkans, the Serbian, and also in Romania and Bulgaria, going to the Black Sea. So the two different branches. So when we look at this map, it's clear that loess is really the most extensive and continuous continental archive of the cold period for the northern hemisphere, and especially for the last glacial across the world. And if we look only to the last glacier, we can find deposits from about more or less 5 meters to 50 meters in thickness from west, northern Brittany, for example, to the Ukraine, which is the best place for the study. So this is the global situation, and some also important point that this loess from Western Europe are located at the southern margin of the former ice sheets, as you can see here. So we are very close to the dust production, because the main part of the dust making the loess is made by the glacial grinding and rewrote by some very strong wind coming from the ice sheets and then transported by the wind to the west. So we have also in this area production production process, and also there is a very important deflation surface, because at that time, if we take the example, for example, of the last glacier, we have clearly very low sea level, so we have the dried out areas of the channel, for example, especially eastern channel or southern North Sea basin, that are really very huge traps for the sediment transported by the braided river, the periglacial braided river. So, for the loess, we have two important points: the presence of the ice, okay, this is clear, but also one very important point is the role of the periglacial rivers. And this will be one point of the presentation today, looking for the relation between the periglacial river systems and the loess, and more generally with the aerial system. But it's not all. There is also, if we look to this map, which was published by Olivier Moine, you see that we are clearly downwind. In Western Europe especially, we are downwind of the North Atlantic, though directly under the influence of the westerlies, with the storm flag in blue coming from the Atlantic to the central part of Europe. So, another important point is also that loess and iron dust are common proxy between the ice and the loess. So the dust is a direct, we can propose direct correlation between the loess and the ice from the Greenland using the dust in the atmosphere. But this is a direct link, and this is one of the only archive which can provide this direct link with the ice. We have also very high sedimentation rates, up to 1 to 1.5 millimeters per year, so we can do high resolution approach. And so, as a short conclusion for this part, important point, according to all these characteristics, the Western Europe loess sequence are really ideally located to record the impact of the climatic variabilities with the cycles. But it's not niche. Also, the loess, if we had only loess, it could be a little bit boring only to dust. What is very important is that in the loess, we have fossil soil, we have the palaeosols. And when you look through the sequence, we can define cyclic alternation between loess and palaeosol. And this is at the base of the definition of the climatic signal in the loess. Climatic signal that can be at the glacial interglacial scale, the scale, but that can go down to very, very short stadial cycle as the glacial cycle. So the soil are extremely important because they are the base of the reconstruction of the temperature, humidity, and also the seasonal contrast in some, and also to the vegetation. So the soil are also very important because they are the main level for the correlation, the stratigraphic correlation between the various profile from local to more or less European scale. I will show you that later. So, first important point, the soil. Second important point also that makes a very rich archive, makes a very rich archive, is the presence of fossil periglacial features. This is mainly located in the Western European part of the loess belt, because you need enough ice, enough humidity in the record to produce the features to the permafrost. So we have the large ice wedge networks, and also we have features corresponding to the degradation, to the collapse of this palaeosol, which are also very important features to interpret the climatic signal from the loess-palaeosol sequence. And finally, the last point, last interest of the sequence is the occurrence of preservation of numerous Paleolithic artifacts or archaeological layers. And this is one of the main applications of this research, is to date and reconstruct the paleoenvironment of the human occupation, especially here for Europe. And also they are extremely favorable for the preservation of the large large mammal remains, bones, and so on. So this is a point I will not develop a lot too much today, but you have to keep in mind. So this was the more or less advantage. The loess is fantastic, but not so fantastic, because we have also some problems with some limits that we have to keep in mind. The first is that there is sometimes, not everywhere, climate very long hiatus in the seconds. We can have up to 10K hiatus resulting from erosion events. And also we have some important variation you will see on the profiles in the thickness of the pedo-sedimentary sequence linked to the morphology. So you can, when you compare some level slope, sinkholes on the plateau, for the same period, you can have very huge difference in the sedimentary thickness and the sedimentary morphology. So this is, it makes the work a little bit complicated. And also we have some questions about the dating, because generally for the absolute dating, numerical dating, we used during at least the last 20 years, luminescence dating methods. And those methods are affected by large error bars and sometimes are not so reliable. We're not going into details, but sometimes it's difficult to get very reliable edges, and so that it's very difficult to use this method to date very accurately, for example, very short events, millennial events in the record. We have also extremely poor organic content in the loess. So out of the archaeological site where we can find bones or charcoals, generally we have nothing to date with the carbon. And so we developed recently a new approach with Olivier, present today. We have developed a new method using the CO2 carbonate, calcium carbonate granules produced by the earthworms in some soils in the loess record. And this allows to provide a very reliable and accurate dating sequence for, especially for the loess reference sequence first, and then we apply to tonal sequence. Okay, so I will finish this part, this quite long introduction by some pictures of the research context and methodology we use. So globally, there are two different contexts. The first one is the long sequence. The long sequence can be natural outcrops, as this one along the Danube River in Serbia, where we have more or less 20 meters of loess wall, and then we have to sample and to describe all this. This is a very, very huge work, and sometimes a little bit tiring or even dangerous. Second type of long sequence, the example of the sequence of Nussler. Again, we will use this at different time in the presentation because it is really our best Western European sequence. In this core, you see again more than 80 meters only for the last glacier. And in that case, we have very fresh material and we can do very long continuous record. It's like a coring, okay? And we can, using the methodology we developed, a continuous column sampling with slicing all the column to, for example, 5 centimeters of resolution. We have a continuous record of all the data for all the analysis, and also it is a reference sample sequence that we can keep for future. Okay, and the other context, a little bit different, is the context linked to all the archaeological excavation, especially with the colleagues from the northern France, where we have test pits and then large excavation, and then it is possible to really work in detail and also make this kind of very accurate description and accurate sampling on the sequence. But here, generally, we are more or less on 5, 6, 7 meters thick sequence. It's not the same job. But here, you see Paleo 1 and Paleo 2. These are, for example, two different archaeological layers. Middle Paleolithic with Neanderthal people and Upper Paleolithic in the level 2. And so here the topic is first to focus on the environmental dating of the archaeology. Okay, so now I will try to share this presentation in 3 different parts. one part I told you a few words at first on the loess source and the relation with the rivers. The second part is more focusing on the stratigraphy, dating, and some archaeological perspective. And the third part is we focus on the question of the permafrost and periglacial feature recorded in the system. So for the first point, I will use this example of Muslo again. From the field evidence, the first point that I use this example because it is extremely clear and also you will see extremely impressive. So Muslo, Rhine Valley, on the right, the red dot, okay. If we look in more detail on the second picture, we have some loess ridges orientated from north-northwest to southeast with the blue, the wind direction represented by the blue arrows. And at that place, it's really incredible because we have extremely long and high accumulation, more or less only made by the last glacial years. But the older topography is very, very young, and so we can have at that place the best accumulation rate for the Western European loess. You see on the right, this is the section. From top down to the last interglacial soil, and all this is very young loess. So you see the different steps, and this is a very simplified cross-section of this kind of dune. It's not really dunes like an onion peel, and so it's clear that all this feature is made from very young loess. I say very young, they no more than 60K for the base. So in this position, there is very important observation in the occurrence of sands in the loess floor. We have laminated sands making the dune, kind of dunes up to 3-4 meters, including at the base with the loess sequence. And they are more or less dated around 55 to 60K, so this is during the low, what we call the low glaciation. We have evidence from very important input of sands. But we found also these sands during the upper glaciation, so in the more recent part of the loess accumulation, and where we have up to 1 centimeter thick. You see clearly on the picture, the light layer corresponds to sand units. And this is, when you look to detail and to section, you see that it corresponds to single events. So this is one storm. So you can imagine how powerful was the wind at that time. And what you must know is that there is absolutely no sands around Muslo on the substratum. It's only the limestone bedrock, and also on the other hand, we have this kind of sands in the present-day valley, and especially in some very high Trias dunes. So we can draw this kind of small model, and in this you will see clearly that we have more than 100 meter difference in altitude in between the source in the braided river of the periglacial Rhine River and the zone where we have the loess grada and the accumulation. So more than 100 meters and more than 2 kilometers. And so the big, the medium and coarse sand grains have been transported from the valley up to this position. So this is, I think, it could be a good, interesting topic for to try to think about, to reconstruct the wind velocity during the periglacial according to this data. But this is not a unique situation. Okay. More or less, we have the same situation for the Eastern Channel area, where we have a lot of river braided system now below the sea, but at that time they were exposed to deflation, okay? But also in all the big rivers, the Danube especially, it's very clear for the Danube, Dniester or Dnieper River also, when you go to the east. So I just want to emphasize the importance of the local source in the system. Yes, we agree that for loess deposition we have to transfer long distance transport from some long distance fine particles, more or less like the dust coming today in Strasbourg. But this is not enough to make loess. To make loess, to make really important loess sequence, you need a source close to the area of the accumulation, very powerful winds, but you need a big source, a local source. and local source, they are made from, especially from the blended river systems. Okay, so to finish on this question of transport and deflation, I use this kind of conceptual model. I wrote this in 2009 because generally, when people think to loess, formerly, we thought that it was more or less kind of continuous accumulation of dust, making progressively loess sequence, with some hiatus by erosion and some palaeosol, but kind of slow and constant accumulation. It's really clear that now with the data we have, especially from the slope, that it's not the case. The loess is made by dust storms, and dust storms are very short events, because on this I represent one low center, one storm coming from the Atlantic, okay, this is the storm track in red here, and this event moved from the western part of the area, north of Brittany, okay, and start to remove the dust. So, start to remove the dust at that time, but one system like that can cross all the zone during 24 hours. So this produces one dust storm, and the next low center, the next storm can produce another dust storm, etc. So we have to imagine that this was very, very hard conditions, especially for sometimes for human and Paleolithic people, because the climate is temperature, it's humidity, but the climate is also wind. And if you have very, very huge wind and very high speed wind, there is no vegetation possible, no development of vegetation, and this is very bad for large mammal. For the big mammals, we need a lot of vegetation, so no big mammal. And if there is no big mammal, there is no people, no hunter at that time. It's clearly what is occurring in northern France area, for example, between 23 and 27, 30 K. There is a very gap in the Paleolithic record during this very old period. Okay, so this is what we can draw to link the source to the climate dynamic from the West Atlantic. Okay. So now I will go to the question of stratigraphy. Okay, use the same map. So we will concentrate more or less on the section corresponding to the red circle. So mainly the slope reference sequence here. It's very important because it is the place where it was first possible to evidence the impact of the Interglacial-glacial cycle. This started more or less around 20 years ago, and at first it was very difficult to publish this idea, to discuss this idea, because so now there is a lot of work being done, and it's more or less clearly demonstrated, and especially on the base of the new radiocarbon methodology. And the second point is the other examples come from the northern France area, where we have more than 100 individual profiles and hundreds of test pits. And so we can have a very, very huge cover of all the area. And this is very important because this is at the base of the work to show that there is a great consistency in all the record. That loess is not local, loess is really a global signal. Okay, so I start from the question of northern France loess. In northern France, we are in more or less a discontinuous loess situation. That's no loess everywhere. It's mainly on the plateau with thickness of 3, 4, 5 meters maximum. And the most important accumulation are located on the leeward slopes exposed to the east or to the southeast. On that place, you see that there is a convex slope, and at that place we have the best accumulation. So we have also accumulation of loess at that place, and preservation of the palaeosol below, black and brown. And it is in this situation that we can discover and study the best Paleolithic sites. So you see the picture on the base corresponds exactly to the cross section at the top. So just inverted, but when you look to the picture, you see clearly on the left it is white, and the white is the chalk. At that place, there is really no loess. And when you cross the little valley, you have 5 or 6 or 7 meters of accumulation. So it's really fully asymmetric and linked to the orientation of the landscape of the valley regarding to the wind direction. Because all the wind direction we can reconstruct from the loess are from northwest to northwest in all this area. So this is morphology and now the stratigraphy. So I will not go into all the details. You see it's a little bit complex. We have more than 25 units only for the last cycle. And if we can go down for a longer story, but it's not the topic today. This is a picture showing you all the different units we can define at a large, I say, regional scale. This is, I say, regional scale is more or less all northern France. You will see that this will go on when you go to Belgium, for example. We have more or less exactly the same record. And in this record, one point is that loess, which is in the drawing represented by pale yellow colors. You see that clearly. It's mainly Palaeoclimate sequence, more than loess sequence. Finally, we have a very important young loess accumulation phase. We'll come back later on this, mainly between 20 and 30. So this is very young, and it makes the biggest accumulation. And below, we have a second calcareous loess accumulation around 65 K, but very thin, it's level 14. Okay? And in between, you have always soils. But the soil are really important, as I told you at first, because the soil can are the base of the description of the evolution of the climate. And especially when you look to this, you have at the base the brown forest soil in orange, corresponding to the forest of the last interglacial. And then when you go to the first events in the last glacier, you change the soil and you go to the gray forest soil, and then you go to steppe soils. And so this shows progressive change in the climate that is more and more continental, it's more dry, and also we have to change in the vegetation at the same time. You go from the forest to the continental forest, and then we finish with the steppe. Because this is really extremely not easy, but very clear according to the succession of the soil. And then after, in the middle part of the system, between 8 and 12, for example, you see that we have some kind of brown soil, which are brown soil that are not connected to forest, but only to steppe or even to dry environment. So very, very poor environment. And the last point on this, important on this scheme, is the position of F1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the main ice wedge network, the position of the main ice wedge network that we can define in the system, and that we are now occupied to date with more and more precision. So, distinct events with the development of ice wedge in the system. For the archaeology, I will be extremely rapid and simple, just numbers. In the part of the earth, what we call the early glacier, we have more than 15 different archaeological sites, extremely well defined and with excavation. When we go down to, up to the lower plain glacier, it's no more than 2. And then about 5 for the middle plain glacier. We are still in the time of Neanderthal people. The end of Neanderthal people, and somewhere around unit 9 in this system. Okay? And then for the upper Paleolithic, it's extremely poor. For a long time, we had really nothing. It was clear hiatus for more than 10K in this area. And now we have one important site of Wanongo for the archaeology, which is extremely important. But it's only one occupation, a very short, perhaps seasonal occupation. One occupation dated at about 27 K during a very short interstadial, but then after there is nothing. And especially there is really nothing during all the deposition of Unit 4. This is the main period of loess deposition. So it corresponds to this period of very, very low biomass in the system.
So I will show you one picture for this, the base of the complex. You see, generally the base of the complex, in the best profile is about 3 meters in thickness. Okay. So 3 meters for 30K, it's not very, very high resolution, we agree, but we can really, okay, it's very, very easy to see on the field. You see on the picture clearly, the great forest soil, for example, is very dark, with very strong features, you know, all the details of this soil, but this one is extremely difficult when you see it one time. You can recognize this kind of soil everywhere in all the profiles. And then you have a clear change between this forest soil at the base, and then you see the different step soil arriving in the system. And at one moment in the system, you see arriving iron seeds. And all this shows this step-by-step move from the interglacial to the glacial. So this one is our, more or less our best sequence of, this is the reference sequence of Strasbourg, and I will try to preserve this one for the future, and we go, for those who come to the excursion, we will go to see this session in May. Okay, I told you that it was more or less the same thing in Belgium, in France and West, and Germany. Yes, if you look to the pedo-sedimentary records here, there are different names, but because they are local names following the stratigraphic rules, but really the budget is the same and the change is the same. So it is clear signals showing that loess is not local, loess is recording long evolution at the scale of Western Europe. And if we look this at larger scale for Western Europe, from northern France to Belgium, then to the reference sequence of Whistler, you can go also to the Université de Strasbourg, Czech Republic, or even Poland. And finally, the main, so I know pointer, so it's difficult to show you, but if you follow the colors, it's really easy. You see that in the system, at one time, you have some palaeoclimate, making a big change between the end of what we call the middle periglacial and the upper periglacial, around 30K. And this change is recorded in all the area. The thickness of the deposits are varying, the richness of the sequence is a little bit different, but the signal is the same. So the main question for the future is now to be able to date all these events and to finally demonstrate this correlation at the scale of all the operates of the sequence. So, yes, I told you that first we have some problem with the luminescence dating because they are not enough accurate for the question of the very short events. So we developed this progress. It was, for me, a very old idea. Then it took a long time to find the solution. Finally, we found a solution with Olivier Moine, working on biology, because these earthworm granules that are represented here by the picture or section, you saw they are close to 1 millimeter generally, and so they are associated to all the small mollusks that are produced when you sieve the loess for malacology. And the first time we found that, it was very surprising because Olivier told me, oh, there is sand in the loess. Of course, sand in the loess, it's strange, but yes, but the solution was not sand, it was this calcium carbonate compression. So you can have thousands of them in big samples. So the idea was to use this. I don't go on all the story, it could be long, but finally, the important point is that they are made inside the earthworm, in some glands, and they are made, the carbon making the calcium carbonate in the earthworm is coming from the feeding, from the vegetal remains, and from possibly the atmosphere, but not from the substrate. So there is no reservoir effect on this, and this makes possible the use for very accurate dating. So this new idea was published a few years ago, and now we use this system for dating of a lot of the sequence. And parallel, it was also a very interesting support to develop reconstruction of paleotemperature, especially using the delta weighting. And this is the work, and it was a PhD, and now the work of Charlotte Fredo. And if you're interested, there are some papers on this new development for this research. So using this, I will show you how it could be extremely accurate for the loess sequence. This is again Muslim here, the best sequence, down to 20 meters. You have a few OSL dates in red for the base because it's not possible to date the base. It's too old for radiocarbon, but for all the other part, down to 80 meters, you have all the age. These are not calibrated. They are the BP age, radiocarbon ages, because when you want to do some correlation between different profiles, it's more simple to use. They directly the radiocarbon without any calibration. So you see clearly that some elements are extremely well dated, and also that the accumulation rate is very high. In this part, we have more than 1 millimeter per year. So this is really a place where we can describe a very, very sharp change in the record. On the right, I put only one curve. This is a curve the variation in the clay content, which is more or less linked to the betogenesis in some case, and to the sedimentation rate for the other bed in the other part. And you can draw a lot of lines in between. It's very clear that we have this enrichment in clay, especially during the brown soil in the middle of the glacier, and then in the other part you go down to the lower soil of the record. So this is the record, the stratigraphy, dating, and clay content from Muslim. And if you use the same data with the calibration of the radiocarbon ages, we can draw the correlation with all the interstitial modules. And you have really some incredible features, for example, the succession of interstitial 3 and 4. They are extremely short and rapid, and they are recorded in this profile. This is extremely, it was the way to demonstrate this link. So it shows that the loess record is able to record extremely rapid climatic variation. This was because now it's more or less accepted, but it was really extremely new still a few years ago. To finish with this question of dating and stratigraphic correlation, just only one point here, from northern France to Muslim, going by Belgium, okay? You see in the middle part there is a red line, and above the red line you have two grey horizons. Grey usually the clay horizon. And when you look to the C14 edges, it is clear that this correlation that was drawn before, only by stratigraphy, only by field, okay, is now extremely well dated, and you can draw all the lines. So again, the signal is the same in all this area. And I think we can go more to the east with the same dating technique, and we probably can be able to extend the system on the longer distance. So the loess is really extremely well suited to record the variations at really at the European scale. Okay, so they are the green interstitial corresponding to this soils. So I will finish this part just with these 2 points. So according to the loess, we can really describe what we call the last glacial loess maximum, and this corresponds to a long LGM, more or less LGM which is proposed by Lambek according to the variation of the sea level. So this period where we have huge deposition of loess starts really around 30K more or less everywhere in Europe. And 30K is kind of boundary all over the system. At that time we have rapid expansion of the ice, but we have also the maximum development of the braided river system, so a huge development of the source, able to produce the dust and making further depletion. So all the data goes together really to evidence a very special period during the last glacial when it was possible to accumulate very huge loess volumes in all the area. Okay, last point. Bye. Okay, so a few pictures, mainly pictures, okay, for the question of the derivation. So this is Guillaume Jarret, another loess friend, working in a big excavation at Archéologie. And so when you see this kind of picture, it's clear that you are in front of very impressive periglacial pictures. We were extremely lucky at that time. For the first time, it was possible to expose the boundary between one big ice wedge network, former ice wedge, the pseudomorph, with loess in the field, and then you have the contrast between the loess in the former network and the palaeosol below. So it's clear that we can measure this and compare this to the big, very large systems that are present today. So this is the section corresponding to this level. You see clearly this shape going down to the soil. So I will be a little bit faster because I need more time. Drawing corresponding, the main message is that these features correspond to really permafrost on the plateau situation. They are only developed in the plateau position. When you're on slope, there is nothing present. So you need to be on the plateau, but on the plateau you have these ice wedges. And then these ice wedges are connected to some special surface and to the clay horizon. Then you have loess deposition and another clay and other system and so on. So it's discontinuous events recorded in the system. Okay, this is the dating of some example again. One important point for the discussion is you see the red curve, the concentration of earthworm calcitic granules in the soil. So it's clear that we are more or less close to zero in the pure loess, and then you go to 250. And these are the C14 edges connected to them. So with this approach, we can really go down to the maximum details for the reconstruction of this story during the navigation. So I will show you one last example again. You see one of the best examples. Now disappeared, but it was very important point. Big ice wedge with loess. This is the picture that we can describe in Northern France, but also in all the quarries. This is, for example, one example from Belgium. So this is more or less my last picture, and then this is the model corresponding to the formation of these events. Okay, so we can go. I will not explain all this today because it could be a little bit long, but this is only for one stadial, interstadial sequence, what we can describe in the loess record. So this is something that we can really upgrade in the future, but I think the base of the system is now more or less well structured. The conclusion. So really more or less evident, because it was more or less explained before, and so I will not insist on this. But in the future, I think we have to expand this dating methodology to all these European sequences when it is possible. And also one point for me, it would be to look for the Aurelian signal in the lake sequence, because in the lake sequence for Northern Europe, probably the dust influx will be enough strong to record also the system. We have some questions about the modeling into the permafrost and some possible future projects filled with new fieldworks in other plants. Okay, so I would like to thank all the illustrations, and so now in the room, and as you can see, sometimes it could be a little bit hard job, but it's really fascinating environment, at least for me. I will just finish this picture because it's terrible, but the best in the sequence are located in Ukraine. They are located along this Dnieper River, and this was more than 20 years ago, where we were with our colleague from Kyiv, Natalia, Yazimenko for the first loess excavation in Ukraine. And they started to work at that place, but okay, it's like that. Thank you very much for your attention.